Welcome back, guys. We are now starting Chapter 7 of Dragonwings. It's going to start on page 145. Last time we read Moonshadow and Windrider get to know Miss Whitlock and Robin a little bit more, and it seems to be going really well. So we're going to continue and see what happens from here. On page 145, this chapter is called Educations, and it happens throughout May to June of 1905. The next day was much like every day for me during our stay among the demons. I got up just before dawn and got the fire going in the stove and put water on to boil and cooked our morning rice. I would help Father with his handyman chores in certain of Mr. Alger's buildings that were in safe areas. Father said it ought to be all right to do my shopping any time from the morning to the early afternoon, because there were mostly harmless shoppers on the streets then. But I had to be back at the stable before the demon children got out of school. I was also to avoid any demons or demonesses standing about in large groups talking idly. I followed Father's orders faithfully. I had no desire to get beaten up or strung from a lamppost by my hair. In the evening, after I had cooked dinner and washed up, there would be lessons in reading and writing the Tang people's words and in the use of the abacus for arithmetic. I lived my life like that every day except for the demons' seventh day, Sunday. As you can see, this did not leave me much time to follow my original program of re-educating the demoness about dragons. But despite everything, Father made it a point to let me have half an hour free each day. I could do anything I wanted during that time. Spit at the walls, sleep on my mat, or simply go off on my own. I think Father was secretly pleased when a few days after we moved in, I decided to use the time to pay another visit to the demoness. I don't mean to make myself sound like a goody-goody. She was a demoness to me at that time, who lived in a magical kind of lair. It was an adventure. It was a challenge. And if I could remind her of some of the true things about dragons that people ought to know, but that she seemed to have forgotten, well, that was to the good. I went up to the demoness's house in my clean tunic and pants. My boots shined and my face scrubbed and my charm around my neck. She smiled quietly and prettily, as she had that first day. "Why, come in, Moonshadow." Miss Whitlock stood away from the door. "Would you like some cookies and milk?" "Maybe cookies and tea?" I asked. I held up the small package I had brought. It was a jasmine-type tea that is sweet and light and fragrant. On the cover was a dragon. "Oh, how nice," the demoness said. "But really, we don't need it. I have tea." Father had warned me that demons sometimes do not have a feeling for the properties. It's always good on the first visit to bring a little something to drink or eat. If Father hadn't explained that to me carefully, I might have been offended by the demoness's refusal, because I might have mistaken her statement as saying that my gift was too cheap for her to use. I fumbled around for some excuse. "Please, I drink a lot. Too much. You take tea." I thrust it out at her again. With a soft laugh, the demoness took it and lifted the lid. "Why, there are flowers inside." She put water on to boil and then sat down across from me and picked at the tea until she could hold up one of the small, white, delicate blossoms. "Isn't that a lovely idea? Flowers in your tea." She got up and returned with a small white thingamabob that had thickened cow's milk in it. Thickened yet, and it had an oily kind of smell that nearly made me sick. She also set down a sugar bowl. "Cream and sugar, Moonshadow?" "Oh, but you never put that into it." She stood with the sugar bowl in her hand. "You don't?" "Oh, no, it ruined tea." I will say this for the demoness. She was much more open to suggestion than I was. She put the sugar bowl and the cream jar away, despite her misgivings. But after we had brewed the tea in the teapot, she sniffed at the spout appreciatively. But this does smell nice. And she poured out 2 cups of the amber liquid. She sipped it tentatively. I watched her face as she broke into her smile and drank more. At least I had broken her from putting cream and sugar into everything. We drank our tea in a friendly kind of silence, and then Miss Whitlock picked up the box again. Her finger traced the long, sinuous curves of the golden dragon. Oh my, isn't it it sounded like beautiful dragon? Please? Beautiful, she repeated, and explained the word to me. Once I understood her, I shook my head vehemently. No, I fumbled for the right word in the demon language, but all I could come up with was a dragony dragon. Another thing to say for the demoness was her genuine interest in learning about people as people, where some idiot like myself would have been smug and patronizing. The demoness really wanted to learn. And like Father, she was not afraid to talk to me like an equal. I don't think I understand. Dragon do terrible thing, yes? I said, struggling for the right words. But dragon, they do good thing too. Bring rain for crops. They king among all reptile. They emperor of all animal. And so on. I went on to tell the demoness everything my father had told me about dragons. Why, how marvelous, the demoness exclaimed when I was finished. I never knew dragons did so much. Maybe only bad kind go live here. You know, outlaw, that respectable dragon no want. Why, yes, the demoness nodded. That would make sense. All the dragons I've read about haven't been very pleasant creatures. No dragon pleasant. A dragony. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. I looked up at the clock and the demoness's cabinet. I had spent over an hour here. That my father, I said, frightened. He looked for me. It was my fault, so don't worry. She added something that sounded like Tia. Please? The demoness looked embarrassed. I said, dear. It means a friend or someone who is close to you. She smoothed out a wrinkle in the tablecloth. Perhaps I was too forward? No, it all right, I said. I felt sure now that I had known the demoness, Miss Whitlock, in some other life. Why, thank you, she said. The knock came again, more insistently this time. Miss Whitlock opened the door. Hello, Mr. Lee. Moonshadow and I were just talking. That boy, him talk too much, Father said sternly. No, it was my fault. I'm afraid. I kept your boy here, listening to the wanderings of an old lady. You too kind, Father said. On the contrary, you are too kind for loaning your son to me for all this time. Miss Whitlock laughed pleasantly. When you get old, you get very selfish. Here I've kept Moonshadow for so long, and it's nearly 3. I didn't even give a thought to getting dinner for my boarders either. Miss Whitlock had 5 boarders in her house. Each slept in his or her own room, but all of them ate at the dinner table with Miss Whitlock. I only saw them once or twice because the demons and demonesses were so old that they kept to themselves. Father and I excused ourselves, then left. I had begun to think that the demons were not really so bad, that every evening I found out that there can be some bad demons too. I was taking the trash out to the trash barrels when I saw a demon boy lounging against the wall of our alley. I was to find out later that he lived in the tenement house next door. He was about 2 or 3 years older than I was, and he was dressed in a gray shirt without a collar. The shirt was of a good, if rough, material. His hair was brown, and his face was covered with brown spots. Freckles, Robin told me later. I passed by him when he kicked me in the backs of my legs. I fell on my back, cracking my head against the ground, the breath driven out of me. Our garbage pail spilled out all over the alley. The boy leered down at me, and above me, on the back landing of the tenement house next door, I saw 6 boys beginning to shout. Ching chong China man sitting in a tree, wanted to pick a berry but sat on a bee. I jumped to my feet and made the mistake of trying to express my anger in the demon language. All I could come up with was, I no like you. The boys fell over one another, laughing. You no like me? The boy asked mockingly. I no likey you. In my frustration, I began to curse him in the Tang people's language, using some of Uncle's more memorable curses. I'm going to cut off your head, I told him, and leave it in the gutter for the dogs to eat. I went on from there, embroidering on the scene, but the boys shinnied over the fence, while the boys above him began to mock Tang people's sounds. Sounds like wing duck so long and hun long hop, and rising and falling voices. I could have bitten off my tongue, but I stood there, staring at them, not wanting to let them chase me away. I felt something soft and wet hit my leg. It was an old tomato. They began to throw bits and pieces of garbage at me. I suppose they had collected the garbage and the stones before they tried to get me. I felt a vague feeling of triumph at having made them use their biggest weapons. I turned slowly, as if I were not afraid of them, but only bored. A stone caught me in the small of my back. I grunted, but I took my time despite the pain, remembering how Red Rabbit had behaved that other time. Besides, I did not want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I did not tell Father about the demon boys. He might have become worried and insisted that we go back to live among our own people, even if it meant swallowing his pride and settling up with the sleepers. The next day I tried to go with Father, but he said he was going into a rougher area that day, so I spent the whole time inside the stable. The demon boys must have played hooky that day. Every now and then, I would hear them chant something, and sometimes rocks would thud against the walls. I did my best to go on with my chores and lessons, but it was hard. It did not help my state of mind when Father came home that evening with a black eye and his right sleeve torn. He set down his toolbox and pointed a finger at me. Before you ask any questions, I'll just say that I got the best of a fight with 2 demons. They ambushed me inside one of Mr. Alger's buildings. I suppose they thought they could rob me. I went out and got some water for Father to wash up. Did they? I asked. Father grinned. What do you think? During the next demon week, the nightmare was especially bad for me. I could imagine that every sound was made by demons or ghosts gathering in the dark to whisper by the door while they waited to pounce on me. It got so that I was afraid at night to go outside to the pump in the backyard because I was afraid the demons might be attracted by the sound of splashing water. But I had to wash the dishes, so I would wash But I had to wash the dishes, so I would dash out to the pump. With my heart beating fast, I would prime the handle frantically and then run back to the shed as fast as I could, spilling half the water on the way. It was the demon girl who started to wash her dishes outside for the fresh air instead of inside the kitchen at the door pump. Though I trusted Miss Whitlock, I was not so sure about the demon girl. With her flaming red hair, she seemed like a true fox demoness who would delight in tricking humans. Maybe she was just curious about why I rushed back and forth to the pump. But I still was not too sure about the demon girl. And I had heard about fox demonesses luring humans to their deaths. I stayed inside. Finally, the demon girl filled a bucket of water and pointed in my direction, meaning it was for me. I suppose she knew I was watching her from inside the stable. But the next day, the demon girl was on the back porch peeling potatoes. And after that, she peeled some apples. And after that, she peeled some onions. She was laying siege to me. She stayed out there for most of the day until I just had to make a trip to the outhouse. When I came out, I tried to walk quickly back to our stable, but she dashed down the steps and got in front of me. "Why are you so scared of the pump?" she demanded. I shrugged silently. I trusted Miss Whitlock not to make fun of my demon talk, but not anyone else. "But it's stupid," the demon girl persisted. "You lose half the water your way." The demon girl pulled one of her pigtails over her shoulder in front of her so she could study its trip. "Are all Chinamen crazy like you?" The kitchen door opened suddenly. "You, Robin," Miss Whitlock said sternly. "I told you to leave Moonshadow alone." "But I'm just trying to be friendly with him." "He won't talk to me," protested Robin. Miss Whitlock leaned over and spoke gently. "How would you feel if you were plucked right down in China in a small village with almost no hope of going back? Would you be scared?" "Well, yes," the demon girl admitted reluctantly. Then she looked at me. "But I'd listened to some Chinaman who told me there wasn't anything in the village pump or anything near it that could hurt me." She walked back to the steps and picked up her bucket of potatoes and went inside. Miss Whitlock stood helplessly by the door. "I'm sorry, Moonshadow." "It all right," I said. My cheeks were red with embarrassment. That night, I made myself join the demon girl by the pump to do the dishes. I had to prove to her that I was not scared. But I still would not speak to her, and I wore the charm against demons. No sense in taking an extra risk. That's where we'll stop for today. We'll see what progresses with him and Robin. We'll see if any kind of friendship develops. We'll see you guys next time.